The Rilnari had always been a peaceful people. Their world, Rilner Prime, was a tranquil haven of cascading blue rivers, golden skies, and endless forests teeming with life. Their society was built on harmony, creativity, and intellectual pursuits. They excelled at crafting art, composing music, and preserving knowledge. But when it came to defending themselves, the Rilnari were utterly unprepared. They had no weapons, no armies, and no concept of war. For generations, their lives were untouched by violence. Until the Scrather came, the invasion began without warning. The Scrather, a brutal species notorious for preying on weaker civilizations, arrived in towering, insectoid ships that blackened the Rilnari skies. Their forces descended on the planet like a storm, deploying suppression fields that rendered Rilnari technology useless. Cities fell within hours. Thousands were slaughtered or enslaved, their once beautiful world reduced to ashes under the Scrather's iron grip. In the chaos, a lone Rilnari scientist named Tilnara found herself on the run. She and a small group of survivors had taken refuge in the ruins of an ancient observatory nestled deep within the mountains. Tilnara's furred, delicate fingers trembled as she worked frantically to repair a centuries-old emergency beacon. It was a relic from a forgotten era, long before the Rilnari had forsaken the idea of conflict. "Are you sure this will work?" asked Joran, a young Rilnari who clutched a crying child to his chest. His wide, violet eyes were filled with fear. Tilnara didn't look up. "No," she admitted, her voice strained. "But it's the only chance we have. If someone out there hears us. If someone answers." She didn't finish the sentence. Hope felt too dangerous to voice aloud. With a final adjustment, the beacon sparked to life, emitting a desperate pulse into the void of space. Tilnara closed her eyes and whispered a silent prayer to the stars. Far away, aboard the Resolute Dawn, humanity's flagship vessel, a crew of Deathworlders was in the midst of routine patrol. The humans, descendants of a species forged on a dangerous and volatile planet, were part of an alliance of Deathworlder species, all from worlds deemed inhospitable by galactic standards. These species were viewed with a mix of awe and fear by the rest of the galaxy. They were survivors, warriors, and inventors who thrived where others could not. Captain Elias Corrin, a seasoned human commander with graying hair and a deep scar across his jaw, was in the ship's war room when the distress signal came through. The holographic interface blinked to life, displaying the encoded message in trembling, uneven bursts. "It's Rilnari," said Lieutenant Harper, a sharp-eyed communications officer. "The signal's weak, but it's clear enough. They're under attack." Corrin frowned. He knew of the Rilnari, a peaceful species, physically fragile, with no history of military development. They wouldn't last a day against the Scrather. "How bad is it?" Corrin asked. "Complete planetary suppression," Harper replied. "The Scrather are using orbital jammers. If we don't intervene." She didn't need to finish. The captain turned to his senior officers, his expression grim. "Thoughts?" An alien figure stepped forward. Commander Krall, a towering, reptilian Deathworlder with scales like blackened steel. "The Scrather are a plague," Krall growled. "If we destroy their forces here, it sends a message to every pirate and slaver in the galaxy. Prey on the weak, and you'll answer to us. And if we fail?" asked Dr. Emlyn Sato, the ship's medical officer. "The Scrather are ruthless. They'll retaliate against the Rilnari even harder." Silence fell over the room as the weight of the decision pressed on them. The Deathworlders were strong, but the Scrather outnumbered them by a wide margin. This wasn't just a rescue, it was a declaration of war. Corrin's gaze drifted to the holographic image of Rilner Prime. The planet's golden surface was now marred by blackened scars, signs of the Scrather's destruction. He thought of the Rilnari, their art, their songs, their innocence. Finally, he spoke. "We were all helpless once," he said, his voice steady. "Humanity, the Larnax, even the Ferrith. Someone gave us a chance to survive. Now it's our turn." He turned to Harper. "Send word to the fleet. We're going to Rilner Prime." Back on Rilner Prime, Tilnara sat in the darkness, staring at the flickering beacon. Hours had passed with no response. Joran had fallen asleep, clutching the child. Others sat in silence, their faces etched with despair. Then a sound, faint at first, then growing louder. A deep, resonant hum that seemed to shake the air itself. Tilnara rushed outside and looked up. The sky was ablaze with light as dozens of sleek, angular ships broke through the atmosphere, their hulls glinting like silver in the sunlight. The Deathworlder fleet had arrived. Tilnara fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "They came," she whispered. "They actually came." Above, aboard the Resolute Dawn, Captain Corrin gave the order, "Prepare for engagement. Let's show the galaxy what Deathworlders are made of." And with that, humanity and its allies plunged into the battle to rescue the helpless. The Deathworlder fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Rilner system, their ships cutting through the void like predators stalking prey. The Resolute Dawn, a hulking warship bristling with weaponry, led the charge. Behind it, smaller vessels from allied species formed an organized assault formation. Each ship's design reflected its origin. The angular, gunmetal gray human ships, the organic, scale-like vessels of the Larnax, and the shimmering, iridescent crafts of the Ferrith. Captain Elias Corrin stood on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, his eyes fixed on the holographic display of Rilner Prime. The planet's golden glow was marred by the presence of Scrather warships, their angular hulls orbiting like vultures circling a wounded beast. "Enemy fleet detected," Lieutenant Harper reported. 32 warships, plus multiple orbital jammers and troop transports on the surface. Corrin's jaw tightened. They brought their full force. "Good." Beside him, Commander Krall, the towering Larnax, let out a low growl. "The Scrather do not know fear," Krall said, his scaled arms crossed. "But they will learn." The Tactical Council convened swiftly. The Deathworlders formulated a bold plan to strike fast and hard, using their unique strengths to outmaneuver and overpower the Scrather. Phase 1. Orbital Engagement. The fleet's first objective was to neutralize the Scrather's orbital jammers, which prevented communication with the planet. Human pilots in agile fighter craft led the charge, weaving through enemy fire with unmatched precision. Their unorthodox tactics, spiraling maneuvers and coordinated decoy strikes, confused the Scrather, whose rigid formations were ill-suited for such chaos. "Target the jammers," Corrin ordered. "I want their suppression fields down within the hour." The Resolute Dawn fired its main cannons, beams of brilliant energy slicing through Scrather warships. Explosions lit the darkness as one jammer after another was destroyed. The Larnax vessels followed, ramming enemy ships with brutal efficiency, their near-indestructible hulls shrugging off return fire. Phase 2 Ground Assault. With the jammers neutralized, the Deathworlders prepared for the ground offensive. Dropships descended to the planet's surface, carrying soldiers from every allied species. The human troops were equipped with advanced exosuits and adaptive weaponry, while the Larnax relied on their raw physical strength, and the Ferrith utilized their hypersensitive senses to detect ambushes. As the dropships approached, Scrather anti-air defenses roared to life. A barrage of plasma fire filled the skies, and one of the Larnax dropships was hit, spiraling out of control. "Hold steady," Corrin's voice rang through the comms. "We don't leave anyone behind." A human pilot broke formation, diving into the firestorm to shield the damaged dropship. The maneuver worked, allowing the Larnax to land safely, but the pilot's ship took a direct hit and disintegrated in midair. On the ground, the Deathworlders hit the Scrather with relentless force. The Scrather, used to preying on the defenseless, were unprepared for opponents who fought with such ferocity and adaptability. The Larnax led the charge, smashing through enemy lines with sheer brute strength. Behind them, human troops used their advanced weaponry and guerrilla tactics to exploit the Scrather's weaknesses. A growing hope. As the battle raged, the Deathworlders made a concerted effort to protect Rilnari civilians. Medics rushed into danger zones to tend to the injured, while soldiers escorted groups of frightened Rilnari to safety. In one village, a human soldier named Private Lien shielded a group of Rilnari children with her body as Scrather drones rained plasma fire from above. Her suit's energy shields flickered under the assault, but she refused to retreat. At the last moment, a Ferrith sniper eliminated the drones, and Lien carried the children to safety, earning their tearful gratitude. Back on the Resolute Dawn, Captain Corrin monitored the progress of the assault. Reports flooded in. The jammers were down and ground forces were making steady gains. But he knew the battle was far from over. "Keep pushing," he said, his voice resolute. "We didn't come all this way to fail." Above Rilner Prime, the Deathworlder fleet repositioned for the next phase of the mission. The fight to rescue the helpless was only just beginning. The battlefield on Rilner Prime was chaos. Smoke billowed from ruined cities, and the ground trembled under the impact of heavy artillery. The Scrather had dug in deep, establishing fortified positions to repel the Deathworlder advance. For the Rilnari, hope was a fragile thread, frayed by the sight of their once pristine world turned into a war zone. Captain Elias Corrin stood at the center of a forward operations post, his holographic map displaying the shifting front lines. "They're consolidating their forces around the capital," he said, gesturing at the glowing red markers representing Scrather strongholds. "They're planning to make their stand there." Commander Krall, the towering Larnax warrior, snarled, his reptilian tail lashing. "Good. We'll crush them where they think they're strongest. But we can't let them dig in any further," said Lieutenant Harper, her sharp eyes scanning the data feeds. "If they fortify the capital, we'll lose too many lives trying to break through." Corrin nodded. "Then we won't give them the chance. Harper, coordinate an airstrike on their forward lines. Krall, I want your ground forces ready to breach their defenses the moment the skies are clear." Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the capital, a squad of Deathworlder soldiers was leading a covert operation. Among them was Private Lien, the human soldier who had already earned the admiration of many Rilnari for her bravery. Her team's mission was critical: disable a key Scrather anti-aircraft facility that was preventing Deathworlder ships from providing close air support. "Stay low and stay quiet," Lien whispered to her squad. The group, a mix of humans, Larnax, and Ferrith, moved through the rubble-strewn streets, their movements silent and precise. The Scrather facility loomed ahead, a grotesque structure of jagged metal and pulsating green light. Guards patrolled its perimeter, their insectoid bodies armored and bristling with weapons. Lien signaled for her team to halt. "We'll take out the sentries first," she said. "RYK, you and I will flank left. Torin, provide cover fire from that ridge." The team moved into position, and within moments, the first sentries fell to carefully aimed shots. The Scrather's remaining forces scrambled to respond, but the Deathworlders struck with brutal efficiency. Lien led the charge, her exosuit enhancing her speed and strength as she closed the distance and neutralized the enemy with precision strikes. Inside the facility, the team located the anti-aircraft array. Sparks flew as explosives were planted on the key systems. "Charges set," RYK announced. "We've got 30 seconds. Move," Lien ordered, and the team sprinted out just as the facility erupted in a massive explosion, the fireball lighting up the night sky. Back at the operations post, Captain Corrin watched the explosion on the holographic map. "The AA guns are down," Harper confirmed. "Then it's time," Corrin said. "Launch the airstrike." From above, squadrons of Deathworlder ships swooped in, unleashing a storm of firepower on the Scrather's positions. The tide of battle shifted dramatically as the Deathworlders pressed their advantage. In the heart of the capital, Tilnara and other Rilnari survivors watched the skies light up with hope in their eyes. For the first time, they believed their world might be saved. The battlefield on Rilner Prime was a swirling chaos of fire, smoke, and blood. Deathworlder forces pushed deeper into Scrather-controlled territory, their coordinated assault creating cracks in the invaders' once impenetrable lines. Yet, despite their progress, the Scrather still held the capital city, a towering sprawl of golden spires that had been reduced to a smoking ruin. Within its center, the Scrather flagship loomed, its jagged silhouette dominating the skyline like a malevolent sentinel. Captain Elias Corrin watched the live battlefield feed from the command deck of the Resolute Dawn. He knew they were approaching the final, most dangerous phase of the mission. The Scrather leader, Warlord Kothrek, was holed up in the flagship, directing the invasion. As long as Kothrek remained alive, the Scrather forces wouldn't break. Corrin opened the comm channel to the ground forces. "We need to take out that flagship. If we eliminate their leader, the rest of their fleet will crumble." Commander Krall's voice crackled through the channel. "Leave Kothrek to me," he growled. "The Larnax do not retreat from battle." "You won't go alone," Corrin replied. "We're sending in a multi-species strike team. Take the flagship, end this invasion." On the surface, the strike team assembled in the shadows of the ruined city. Humans, Larnax, and Ferrith worked together, their differences forgotten in the face of a common enemy. Each species brought their unique strengths. The humans with their tactical precision, the Larnax with their brute strength, and the Ferrith with their unmatched sensory abilities. Leading the team was Krall, his massive frame clad in gleaming battle armor. Beside him, Private Lien, the human soldier who had saved the Rilnari children earlier, double-checked her weapon. Her face was streaked with soot, but her eyes burned with determination. "We hit the flagship hard and fast," Krall growled. "No hesitation. No mercy." The team moved swiftly through the ruins, evading Scrather patrols. As they approached the flagship, they encountered a barricade of Scrather soldiers. The fight was brutal and immediate. The Scrather outnumbered them, but the Deathworlders fought with unparalleled ferocity. Krall charged headfirst into the fray, his armored claws tearing through Scrather ranks like paper. Lien provided covering fire, picking off enemy snipers with pinpoint accuracy. Meanwhile, a Ferrith scout darted through the chaos, disabling traps and locating weak points in the Scrather defenses. When the last Scrather fell, the team pressed forward, breaching the flagship's hull. The interior was dark and cavernous, its walls lined with jagged, insectoid architecture. Every corner was a potential ambush, but the Deathworlders moved as one, covering each other's flanks. At the heart of the ship, they found Kothrek. The warlord stood over a holographic map, his massive, insectoid frame gleaming under the dim lights. He turned to face them, mandibles clicking in amusement. "You think you can stop me?" Kothrek snarled. "I have crushed 100 worlds. You will be no different." Krall stepped forward, his claws glinting. "We're not like the others," he growled. "We fight back." The battle was fierce. Kothrek was a towering, vicious opponent, his bladed limbs striking with lightning speed. But the Deathworlders fought with unyielding resolve. Lien's quick thinking and precision strikes distracted the warlord, allowing Krall to land devastating blows. In a final, coordinated attack, the team brought Kothrek to his knees. Krall delivered the killing blow, his claws tearing through the warlord's exoskeleton. With Kothrek dead, the Scrather forces faltered. The remaining ships attempted to retreat, but the resolute Dawn and its fleet pursued, ensuring no Scrather escaped. As dawn broke over Rilnar Prime, the Deathworlders stood victorious. The Rilnari emerged from their hiding places, their wide eyes filled with cautious hope. Tilnara approached the strike team, her voice trembling. "You saved us," she whispered. Krall nodded, his fierce expression softening. "You called for help," he said simply. "And we answered." For the first time in days, the golden light of Rilnar Prime seemed to shine brighter. The Deathworlders had done more than rescue the helpless. They had restored hope to an entire species.